Day 14, Miami Dolphins fans. How are we all doing today? It is Ben Morgan of the Fins Up Network. As always, we're going to have a full report from all of the day's action from Miami Dolphins training camp, which actually includes the release of one of the interior defensive linemen that we brought in earlier this offseason. We're going to jump into all of the news, all of the on-field action in just a second. Before we do, as always, got to hear from you. Your thoughts on the release of this interior defensive lineman, your thought from today's training camp report. You know what to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't gotten subscribed yet, make sure you are doing that as well. Thanks, as always, to those that are subscribing, liking, commenting. Definitely appreciate all of your support. But yes, that interior defensive lineman that is no longer with the Miami Dolphins is actually Teair Tart. And yeah, this may come as a bit of a surprise to some Miami Dolphins fans, as there's been numerous training camp reports that has Teair Tart kind of being one of these interior defensive linemen that's been making plays and getting these splash plays during training camp. However, there's, like I said, with the Dolphins, with the NFL, there's always a however, there's always a but. Teair Tart came into the offseason program with the Miami Dolphins out of shape. When they do their speed testing and everything with the positional drills, he was a good 15 to 20 yards behind all of the other defensive linemen in his running drill. This is all, I don't know what is all public knowledge of this. This is just what I was told earlier today following the release. Was also told that he rarely gave full effort in practice. The coaching staff actually started calling him Flash, and that was by all means not a compliment. He'd give inconsistent effort throughout practice and only make noise on those flash plays, hence the nickname, and hence why he was showing up in some of these training camp reports. The thing is with Teair Tart is that if he could just put it all together, man, he'd be a really super talented player in this league. He'd be sticking on an NFL team's roster. Unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to do that since being in the NFL. Hence, there's another release now on his resume. But yes, Miami Dolphins fans, Teair Tart is no longer in consideration for this team's 53-man roster. Moving on into actual on-field news, I actually have, I believe, two highlights from today's practice. Let's just get the one out of the way right away. Let's get the turnover out of the way early on. We'll save the touchdown for about midway through the video. This first video, though, is an intercepted pass where Siran Neal deflected a Tua Tagovailoa pass that ends in an interception for Marcus Maye. It's not a bad throw. It's just receiver doesn't quite fight for it enough. Neal does a good job of getting his hand in there, getting the deflection, and obviously Marcus Maye takes care of the rest of it from there. I'll show it to you one more time. It's a pretty quick clip. Gets the hand in there, interception secured, good play for the defense. Like I said, I got one other clip of a very cool play that's going to be coming up here in a second, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But on to the practice notes from the day. From the running backs, both Jaylen Wright and Achane were noted with some chunk yardage plays. Tyreek Hill moving quickly to the wide receivers. Didn't have as much notes from the running backs today. I got a little bit tied into some offensive line notes. Tyreek comes into practice, catches a 40-yard pass from Mike White. Now, some of the reporters say that Tyreek is taking it that final 20 yards for a 60-yard touchdown. Regardless, Tyreek Hill with yet another deep ball in Miami Dolphins training camp. That has obviously been kind of a rinse, wash, repeat thing for Tyreek Hill ever since he has been here with Mike McDaniel. Tyreek and River Cracraft had back-to-back completions from Tua in the team's second set of 11-on-11 drills. And then Eric Azukama, who we had mentioned, actually did return to team drills and practice yesterday, caught a touchdown from Tua Tagovailoa in a red zone work. And I'm going to read Travis Wingfield's tweet in regards to this play, because he says, Tua does a little Houdini act as a scrambler. He pulls the ball over the rusher on a sidestep, flees to his right, pulls up and flicks it with the wrist for a touchdown to Eric Azukama. So obviously, love what we're seeing for Tua Tagovailoa there, being able to move off of the spot, create plays on the move, on a scramble right there. But also Eric Azukama, who we've mentioned, going to need to start making some plays, or he's going to be that roster bubble guy where it's, can he stick on this 53? Is he more of a practice squad guy? Is Miami just going to end up cutting ties with him? We'll see, but obviously a play like that for today helps his cause a little bit. Also noted that Braylon Sanders and Malik Washington caught back-to-back balls from Skylar Thompson during team drills. Both receptions went for about 20 yards. Braylon Sanders actually had to climb the ladder for his. Malik Washington's came on a sideline catch. Tight ends, this is where that video comes into play today. Durham Smythe had back-to-back receptions from Tua at one point during two team drills. And then Jonnu Smith was credited for a nice block on a run that sprung Jaylen Wright around the perimeter for chunk yardage. But the even cooler play is that we're going to dive into right now. Jonnu Smith scoring on a 10-yard rushing touchdown in red zone work. Let's check that one out right now. You're going to see Tua's in shotgun. You got a little bit of motion. There's just some cool moving pieces in the backfield here. I'll play this one again so you can see. There's a fake. Jonnu comes on the end around. You got a lead blocker set up. He basically isn't contacted until right around the goal line. Like I said, I'll show that again because there's quite a few moving parts here. But as we've talked about with Jonnu Smith, just another chess piece for Mike McDaniel in this offense. As the end comes around there, it looks like Calais Campbell just kind of over pursues it a little bit too much. You get yourself a lead blocker. Next thing you know, an athletic tight end like Jonnu Smith takes it the right way. But we've talked about Jonnu Smith getting action in the run game, albeit it's not going to be a consistent thing. Being one of the guys that's in a bigger package, lining up in the backfield, being a tight end that you can throw screens to, like we talked about a million times, a chess piece for Mike McDaniel that he's never truly had at tight end. I know Mike Gesicki was like a really good pass catching tight end, but he didn't do anything after the catch. He couldn't do anything in the sense of blocking. So it almost became too obvious if you wanted to really plan a play for Mike Gesicki. Well, with Jonnu Smith and with the tight ends that we kind of have right now, we can put a little bit of that worry behind us. This is a really cool move for Mike McDaniel. I'm excited to see what Jonnu Smith does at tight end this year for the Dolphins. One final tight end note, Julian Hill caught a touchdown pass from Mike White in red zone work. Some reporters had Jonathan Harris in for a would-be sack on that play. Regardless, give it credit to both. We're Dolphins fans, right? A sack for Harris, a touchdown for Julian Hill. Overall, pretty solid day for your Miami Dolphins tight ends based on what was being reported. Robert Jones was in the orange jersey for the Dolphins today. He's still getting some starter reps on the offensive line with Isaiah Wynn still on PUP. And then you got Liam Eichenberg, who's been moved over to center while Aaron Brewer is out. Terron Armstead ended up getting his first full speed 11-on-11 reps today. So that's a cool sign. Sounds like maybe it was only like a handful of snaps, didn't get much work. I fully expect this to be the situation with Terron Armstead for the remainder of the offseason. We can't afford to have another injury up front. We already lost Keon Smith for the season. Isaiah Wynn's banged up. Aaron Brewer's banged up. The last thing we need is Terron Armstead banged up as well. So I'm hoping for no preseason action. Give him some of these safe reps. Hell, even in the joint practice coming up, leave Terron Armstead on the shelf. He doesn't need those reps. Yeah, the offense can benefit, can get some good out of him being out there in maybe a joint practice. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have him available week 6, 7, 8, 9, up until the end of the season. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, Deshaun Hand and Emmanuel Ogbah credited for getting in early on a pass from Tua, which forced a high completion. Jordan Brooks, who returned a couple practices ago, nearly picked off Tua on a pass over the middle. He got the pass break up, just couldn't quite haul in the interception right there. Chop Robinson and Calais Campbell noted for back-to-back impact plays in that second set of 11-on-11 drills. Chop Robinson had a would-be sack on Tua, and then Calais Campbell was able to beat his man, make a stop after a short completion to Devon Achane. And it sounds like if he doesn't make that stop, there is some daylight for Devon Achane to make another big play there. So a big play there for Calais Campbell. Quentin Bell, standout in training camp, credited with a tackle for loss on a Raheem Mostert carry. Duke Riley was credited for a tackle for loss on a Salvon Ahmed carry. If you haven't heard that name, that's because it was Salvon Ahmed's first day back at practice for quite some time. So he's getting some reps. He kind of feels like maybe that odd man out, especially with Mostert, Achane being your guarantees. And then with how well Jaylen Wright has looked recently, Chris Brooks has had some moments. It's going to be tough for a guy like Salvon Ahmed to crack this roster. But regardless, he was back getting work today. And we'll finish up in the secondary. Cam Smith was back at practice today. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, he got hurt, ended up returning, re-injured himself last week. He was back today. Travis Wingfield, again, he noted Patrick McMorris with 2 impact plays early in practice, one on a run stop coming from a deep safety position, the other on a screen pass that he sniffed out, he identified right away. He beat his blocker to that spot, ended up making the tackle. Patrick McMorris, I did not think I was going to say this sentence all offseason, but Patrick McMorris is quickly jumping up on the list of people that I am excited to see play in these preseason games. So he's 100% on my list of players to keep an extra eye on Saturday's preseason game. And the final note of the day, Kendall Fuller had a pass breakup on a pass from Tua to Willie Snead. He later nearly had a diving interception on a pass from Tua Tagovailoa as well. Sounds like there might have been movement on the offensive line prior to the snap, so it might not have even counted. Regardless, Kendall Fuller nearly with a highlight interception off of Tua as well. That is a wrap for today, Miami Dolphins fans. Like I said, if you haven't gotten subscribed yet, make sure you are doing so. Every day that there's a training camp practice to report on, we will be here providing that news. Any other news Miami Dolphins related, we will obviously be back with that as well. But like I said, we will kill it there for today, Miami Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.